Okay, so welcome everybody. This is our weekly interfaith meeting by Zoom, and a little later, the topic tonight will be how to have potentially difficult discussions about international conflicts without actually the discussion turning into another conflict. So how to have peaceful discussions. But I'll introduce that topic a little bit later. Just a reminder that we should, if you can put your name on the screen and be muted when you're not speaking, we're here to learn, not to argue or to promote a view unless we're the presenter. But tonight we're learning from each other about how to have constructive discussions. And this passage, whether through deeds or words, the merit of your every contribution to social well-being lies first in your resolute commitment to discover that precious point of unity, where contrasting perspectives overlap and around which contending peoples can coalesce. So that's a favourite piece of guidance which has helped us in many sessions. So that will be our topic tonight, Principles for a Peaceful Discussion about International Conflicts. We've allocated readings, started recording. You're all very welcome. And I'd like to ask Ahmed to honour the Indigenous people and the land, after which we'll have a piece of music, 7 readings, and a closing music.
Okay. There is widespread acknowledgement that the present-day structures of the society are ill-prepared to address the needs of humanity in its current travails. Much that was widely assumed to be certain and unshakable is being questioned, and the resulting ferment is producing a longing for a unifying vision. The chorus of voices raised in support of oneness, equality, and justice shows how many share these aspirations for the societies. This is a message from Universal Justice, Res 1 of 2023. Now, we in Australia obviously have our original residents. We acknowledge and pay respect to the past, present, and future traditional custodians and elders of this nation we call Australia, and the contribution of cultural, spiritual, and educational practices of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. We acknowledge Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders tribes were the first sovereign nations of the Australian continent. The Gadigal of the Eora Nation are the traditional custodians of this place we now call Sydney, and Wangal people are the traditional owners of Bearwood, where Vasanta lives. And I'm in Koringai, the Koringai nation.
Never may brother hate brother or sister hurt sister. United in heart and in purpose, commune sweetly together. I will utter a prayer for such concord among family members as binds together the gods, among whom is no hatred. I bind you together. Assemble for the worship of the Lord. Let spokes around a hub. Hindu writings.
In the name of God, I praise and invoke the Creator, Ahura Mazda, the radiant, glorious, omniscient Maker, Lord of lords, King over all kings, watchful, Creator of universe, giver of daily bread, powerful, strong, eternal, forgiver, merciful, loving, mighty, wise, holy, and nourisher. May his just kingdom be imperishable. Zoroastrian writings. Zendavesta, Khorda Vesta, part 1.
Just as with her own life, a mother shield from heart her only child, let all embracing truth for all that live by time, and all embracing love for all the universe, in all its heights and deeps and breadths, honesty lit love, unmarried by hate within, not rising in empty. Buddhist writing.
Till the Spirit be born us from on high, and the whiteness become a fruitful field, and the fruitful field be counted for a forest. Then the justice shall dwell in the whiteness, and the righteousness shall abide in the fruitful field. And the work of righteousness shall be peace, and the effects of righteousness, quietness, and confidence forever. Jewish writing, Isaiah 32, verse 15 to 17.
Bless them which persecute you. Bless and curse not. Rejoice with them that do rejoice, and weep with them that weep. Be of the same mind one toward another, if it be possible, as much as lieth in you. Live peaceably with all men. Christian writing. Romans 12, chapter 9, verse 18.
Moreover, to Moses gave we the book, and we raised up apostles after him. And to Jesus, son of Mary, gave we clear proofs of his mission, and strengthened him by the Holy Spirit. Soften then, as an apostle cometh to you, with that which your souls desire not. Swell ye with pride, and treat some as impostors, and slay others. Islamic writings.
Consort with the followers of all religions in a spirit of friendliness and fellowship. of all it has been revealed. Love of one's country is the element of the faith of God. The tongue of grandeur hath, however, in the day of his manifestation proclaimeth. It is not his to boast who loved his country, but it is his who loved the world. Baha'i writing, Baha'u'llah.
Thank you very much to all the readers. So tonight I'll share screen and just introduce the topic with 11 slides. Let's move a few control bars out of the way. So the topic is some principles for peaceful discussion about international conflicts. Fortunately or unfortunately, there's no shortage of international conflicts. I've got a new one this morning. Is it possible to discuss contentious issues such as current international conflicts and related humanitarian crises in a way that generates light, not heat? And my short answer is yes. But this is for discussion, but for discussion tonight. But when we're talking about international conflicts, if the discussion avoids taking political sides, but instead looks for the broadest and deepest principles. So that's the summary. of what I conclude, what I've found so far. And the most basic and acceptable principle is that humanity is essentially one, and that productive discussions need to look at the implications of this principle in the international community of states and in local communities of individuals. But first, how should we discuss such issues? Find a way to change screen. So if we consider the current discourses between leaders and in the news and on social media on international conflicts, for example, Gaza, Palestine,
We can't hear Colin.
We might have lost him. We might have to reconnect.
Mm.
okay, I think I just disconnected. You can hear me? Good.
Yeah, now we can hear you.
Good, sorry about that. Too many applications open. Where is it? If you think I'm struggling, I'm only making it look that way. What can you see on screen? Can you see a slide? What?
No, only you. I think we lost the share. We have to share.
Oh, okay, we're not sharing that.
Sharing the second slide and then it was all frozen.
All right. That would be this one.
Yep, can see.
That's good. All right. So we live in a society divided by debate. We urgently need a society that makes greater use of dialogue. There is a difference between debate and dialogue. In a debate, the atmosphere is usually threatening. Interruptions expected. The participants express unwavering commitment to their own point of view. There is often a great deal of heat, but little light. In a dialogue, by contrast, the atmosphere is more exploratory, where participants express uncertainties as well as deeply held beliefs, and where the participants listen to, understand, and gain insight from others. The goal with dialogue is changed from conquering to growing, from silencing to knowing, from telling to asking. When questions are employed, they are used to learn and grow, not to defeat and conquer. This is a path to greater creativity and expanding horizons. How one says something is as important as what one says. So the kind of dialogue described by Dr. Sutta is exactly what we are trying to learn and practice in this interfaith discussion group. And it's also something that Baha'is are learning by practicing what I call Baha'i consultation, or what I think of as genuine consultation. And this means starting with unity of hearts, focusing on an issue, identifying relevant facts, expressing one's views courteously, and then letting go of one's views, but listening to other views without putting them down. And eventually, by consensus, reaching unity of thought and action. But if the discussion becomes heated, then it's discontinued or deferred to a better time. So that was how, and now what? What do we discuss? Don't start with differences, and this is the quote we read before. We should discover that precious point of unity where contrasting perspectives overlap and around which contending peoples can coalesce. And unfortunately, some themes of discourse are the focus of such intense controversy and heated political disagreement that they simply must be avoided, maybe discussed at a later time when there's less heat. So possible points of agreement when discussing the symptoms. Now I'm using the analogy of like an illness and a remedy. And this is very helpful because when we compare the world's community to a human body, you know, a human becomes ill when the organs and the systems don't work together, or if a disease and injury are not attended to. And in the same way, the world is ill if the nations do not sufficiently cooperate. And if there's fear or prejudice or violent conflict. So possible points of agreement when discussing the symptoms, for example, a current conflict. Conflict, we could agree that conflict increases suffering, fear, and hatred, and it's costly. We could agree that true peace would be better. But what are the barriers? And peace talks between leaders are difficult in a political environment where there's fixed views, different histories, power imbalance, and debate. When we're discussing the disease, for example, disunity, the broader and deeper reasons for a conflict can potentially be discussed harmoniously instead of looking for people or countries to blame and planning to retaliate. And when discussing possible remedies, for example, recognizing the oneness of humanity, there's two environments. We could shift it from our discourse from the political environment, where it's very heated, to discussion about the international environment and the community environment. So in the international environment, leaders can potentially establish collective security, and in the community environment, parents can raise children who promote unity. So, you know, as individuals, we're limited in what we can do on our own, but in our discussions, our dialogue and consultation with friends and neighbours, we can try to better understand the issues. And when we understand better, we act more wisely. Now, just continuing with the symptoms and the disease before we get to remedies. Now, I read this book and called the Israel-Palestine Reader, edited by Alan Doughty. And on the back cover, now this is important to hear voices from people who are in conflict and try to understand them better. It says, introduction to any complex international conflict is enriched when the voices of the adversaries are heard. Describing the book, it says, vivid and illuminating readings present the voices of diverse parties through personal testimonies and analyses. Key leaders, literary figures, prominent analysts, and simply close observers of different phases of this protracted conflict are all represented in their own words. So reading through this, in a sense, I was focusing on the differences because it was presenting one side or the other. The chapters alternated. And I read it with the expectation of understanding the conflict by hearing both sides. And the chapters alternated. Each reading presented the perspective of one side and then the other, all the way through the last 100 years of history. And the result was that I felt I could understand both sides sympathetically. However, I could not grasp both sides at the same time. My mind switched from one perspective to the other and back again, repeatedly throughout the whole history of the conflict. You could say that I have a feeble mind, and you might be right, but I prefer to imagine I was really trying to listen and understand. And reflecting further, I realized that I could not contribute constructively to any discussion about the differences in this or any other complex conflict unless I see it through the lens of global and spiritual principles. In other words, thinking about the international environment and the personal and community environment. I recommend that book, by the way. The remedy. Now, this you could say this is a proposal, but it's a principle that is no longer controversial, and that is that for the first time in history, it is possible for everyone to view the entire planet with all its myriad diversified peoples in one perspective. So whichever science you look at, anthropology, physiology, psychology, all recognize only one human species, but of course, infinitely varied in the secondary aspects of life. And of course, recognizing this truth means we must abandon prejudice, every kind of prejudice, whether it's race, class, color, creed, nation, sex, degree of material civilization, even religious prejudice. So there's two environments I mentioned, the international and the community. I think this is where we can steer the discussion if it's focused on differences and the immediate issue and retribution and making people angry, whoever we're talking to, a group around the table or in a workplace or wherever. Maybe we can just raise the level of the discussion to something based on principles and therefore solutions. So this is from a message often called The Promise of World Peace, but it's a letter addressed to the peoples of the world in October 1985 from the Universal House of Justice. And that was in the lead up to the International Year of Peace. And it says, a fresh effort must now be made to find the solutions to the agonizing problems of the planet. The intolerable conditions pervading society bespeak a common failure of all. Clearly, a common remedial effort is urgently required. It is primarily a matter of attitude. Will humanity continue in its waywardness, holding to outworn concepts and unworkable assumptions? Or will its leaders, regardless of ideology, step forth and with a resolute will consult together in a united search for appropriate solutions? And it goes on to say, there is, however, a paralysis of will, and it is this that must be carefully examined and resolutely dealt with. So by paralysis of will, that's explored in the same document. And it says that this paralysis is rooted in the deep-seated conviction that we're all just quarrelsome and we can't do anything about it. And it's also traceable to the incapacity of many people to articulate their desire for a new order of peace and harmony and prosperity. So this paralysis is part of the disease. Paralysis of leaders, but what can I do to help the leaders to overcome this paralysis, to overcome this barrier to sitting down and really just solving the problems? Collective security, not sure if you're familiar with the term. Somewhere I've printed out something from Wikipedia, and I'll just highlight a couple of key points. Collective security is an arrangement between states in which the institution accepts that an attack on one state is the concern of all and merits a collective response to threats by all. Now this, we see it applied in regional areas, but what we need here is planetary, global collective security. Because it serves as a deterrent. If one nation says, okay, we feel that we should have that country next door, or we're entitled to it, or we want it, or we need it, and we've got enough weapons to do it, then they'll be deterred, knowing that there's international law and there's an international community which won't let that happen. Of course, there's much to talk about in that. Where do you get the power which is greater than the power of one of the great powers? So disarmament would be part of it. The same as we're disarmed in Australia. We don't need to carry weapons because we let the police do their job. If we all carried weapons, then I'd be probably suspicious of the municipality next door. I'd be wondering how many weapons they had and where they're pointing them. But because we just gave our weapons to the police, so we feel secure. All right, so that's the concept. That's one thing we could talk about, how to help the leaders to get together. And then there's the community environment. Remember this, we might be having a difficult discussion around the table about any current world conflict, and it might be getting heated. Where can we redirect the conversation, or try to? So we can look at the community, and this is where parents can raise children who create unity. And this statement to the Baha'is of the world at Rizwan, that's April 2000, has several pages on which empower parents and describe what they can do for their children. It says, children are the most precious treasure a community can possess, for in them are the promise and guarantee of the future. They bear the seeds of the character of future society, which is largely shaped by what the adults constituting the community do or fail to do with respect to children. They are a trust no community can neglect with impunity. An all-embracing love of children, the manner of treating them, the quality of the attention shown them, the spirit of adult behaviour toward them. These are all among the vital aspects of the requisite attitude. And in the same statement, it goes on to say that acceptance of the oneness of mankind is the first fundamental prerequisite for reorganizing the world as one country and the home of humankind. And so this principle should be universally accepted. It should be proclaimed, taught in schools, and constantly asserted because it's uncontroversial. The acceptance of the oneness of mankind. And through parents, families, and communities, we can build communities that offer hope in place of despair, unity in place of conflict. And when we focus on this area, I mean, the other area, collective security, we can, I guess the leaders are looking to see what the community is like, what people's attitudes are, and we can indirectly help that way. But at the community level, we all have agency and capacity, and we can all play a part. So just summarizing those principles, which I think I identified. Dialogue and consultation, not debate. Avoid subjects of intense controversy and heated disagreement. Don't start with differences, discover a point of unity. Identify the widest and deepest principles, for therein lies the remedy. If the basic principle is the oneness of humanity, then discussion can turn to the international environment and the community environment. The international environment is insecure. Perhaps we can steer a discussion to the potential future of collective security. And the family and local environments are where children learn values and virtues. Maybe we can turn the discussion towards raising children who see the whole world as one family. Okay, and I'd just like to finish with this question to start the discussion. What would you do in this situation? You have invited several neighbours over for dinner. Everyone is happy to be making new acquaintances and friendships are being formed. Discussion turns to a development in the Middle East conflict. to disagree strongly about who is right and who is wrong in that conflict. Others join in the debate by voicing compassion and anger about the humanitarian crisis. What could you say to turn this into a constructive dialogue? Okay, I've put you on the spot. You thought you were in an interfaith meeting. Now you're hosting a dinner and an argument is starting. All right, over to you. I welcome and look forward to hearing any thoughts. So, for example, in this dinner, if you, like I always have some sort of opinion on some of these conflicts. So if I felt, okay, well, everyone knows this side's right, I feel safe, I'll just say it. This side's right. That one acted unjustly. This leader was bad. I feel safe in saying that about whatever the conflict is. Would that help? Ahmed.
I think if you go through, looking at an issue with justice, then you would be able to find the right path. So in a conflict, the only way to find the truth would be putting justice to those different views. And I think, it's a very hard concept to discuss in a dinner time, but I always start saying that, well, when I view all these things in a just way and a fair way, then I present my side. Obviously, I would say these conflicts are there because we're not united. Humanity is not united. And we need a new, fresh way of viewing the issues. And to my belief, the United Nations no longer works. It's not, doesn't have powers to implement things. And every time something comes up, one of the sides vetoes that concept. So we have reached to a point where the United Nations no longer works, and we have to look at it freshly. So this is internationally. And I totally agree with you for the community that education is the way to go. Children have to be taught virtues of, being a human. So that's my thought about it. But it's a hard thing to discuss in the dinner time. Actually, yeah. I was, this Monday, I was in a birthday meeting of the at work, and they asked me about what's happening in Iran because I'm Iranian background. And I just said the same thing, that, looking at it fairly, I believe who is wrong and who is right. And so, we have to look at the problems in a just and fair way, then we will find a path.
I'll get back to you on that point on justice, but with United Nations is not working, could that be a question which would help steer a difficult discussion? Could you ask why isn't the United Nations working, living up to its promise?
Well, in the discussion that I had in Monday, that didn't come up, but they were just asking that, are your family okay, and things like that. Mm. And I said, yeah, they're okay. They've gone north. And then I did point that some of my family relatives, distant relatives, are Muslim, and they're very fanatic. And then I just pointed that, you know, we have to look at things fairly with justice, then the path will be clear.
Yeah. Now, justice. I agree. Justice is a key. There has to be justice or an expectation of justice, but that kind of requires a judge, someone who sees everything and knows everything and understands everything. The best we can approximate is like an international court.
But each one of us personally are, you know, in that position when we want to put a view towards anything. So, but we have to try to be fair and just, then the view will be clear. I think that's the way to go. Otherwise, you end up taking one point to extreme and saying that I am right and you're not right. So there are points between the two. So it's not as clear as that. There are gray areas. They overlap, you know, when the concept comes up.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the war that has started. Millions of people had to flee from the war. I mean, without any reason. And then one side is saying this and the other side saying that. And they're not sitting together sorting the problems. But I mean, what can you do at the moment? These are the answers. You know, conflict is the answer. But conflict is not really an answer to these things. Coming together is answer.
I liken the international community and its conflict to like a playground, a school playground, where there's a teacher, supposed to be a teacher on duty, but the teacher was off for a few hours or a few weeks or the whole year. And these poor children they can't organize, they're too young to organize themselves or too inexperienced to organize themselves peacefully when there's a few bullies in the playground. And so they end up realizing they need protection, so they form alliances and try to work out who's going to protect them best.
Most of these conflicts are situations where either they're after some resources or they have a fanatical view that they want to implement. You know, the particular view, and obviously these have to be sorted worldwide in a fair way.
Yeah, well, when the teacher does come along and finds everyone's been hurt by everyone else, so theoretically, it's possible for the teacher to interview everyone, create a history of how it began and who did what, and whether they retaliated a little bit too strongly or not, etc. It gets very, very messy and complicated. What teachers do in practice, I've noticed, is firstly they'll give children some rules and expectations and encouragement to follow the rules, but they'll also create a safe environment. In other words, there'll be a teacher with power in the playground, and that helps keep the peace. Now, that leaves, of course, everyone having some feeling of injustice because of what's happened to them. And that reminds me of South Africa. When apartheid ended, there was a Truth and Justice or Truth and Reconciliation Commission with Archbishop Desmond Tutu was on it. So he wrote a book about it. And the fact that they were making a move into a better future gave people a sense of security and safety, and the opportunity to just say what they'd experienced, and for the others who may have committed it to hear it. That was very healing. But while it's going on, sometimes there's just so much hurt and so much conflict, and everyone feeling that they're just being just, but no one really knowing where justice lies.
On the point of national, the source of all these things is disunity of human society. So, I mean, human society, if unites, all these problems will disappear. So I'll talk too much, so I'll leave it to others.
I'm with you, because unity is not just a good feeling; it's also structures which reflect that good feeling. Rosine.
Hey, thank you, Colin, for the nice presentation. And the topic is very interesting because it's actual today. Everywhere people are talking about the situation happening between Iran and Israel. And answering directly to your question, I would like to share my opinion because unfortunately I have to go for a small walk soon in 10 minutes. So in my point of view, to answer to this question is, first of all, to try to stay neutral inside the discussion, and always to try to see the situation as a different point of view. Because if we come directly with our opinion, personal opinion, for sure we're never going to find a solution, since these international problems are lasting very longer, and until today the humanity didn't find any solution. So we all know that the solution is first of all is spiritual, because all those problems is like disease, and those diseases are spiritual. It's a human spiritual disease, and to be practiced in the answer, we first of all ask the people to step back as a neutral person. Can be religious point of view, or personal point of view, and to try to see the problem like a doctor who's trying to make a diagnostic on a patient, you know. So first, before the doctor is trying to prescribe the remedy, he must find out the real problem, what is going on. And if we have to see the general problem in the world, is because people are not coming together to talk together. So it's the time today for the humanity to come together and to talk together. First of all, consultation. You said also inside the presentation, Colin. So first of all, consultation. And secondly, to apply the principle, for example, of justice, like Annie said before. Yes, the principle of justice, and another point, like, for example, compassion, and in general, I can say spiritual virtues. Normally, this is the way the humanity can find a solution, because when we see through all those political issues, the real basic problem is come from our personal character, egoism, and many kind of bad things which is happening today. Like if we go through the details, we're not gonna find really the solution, because it's too much, it's too long. Need to talk about psychiatry, psychology, all those points will come together. But to focus on the solution, it's a spiritual solution. We need the religion in general. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosie. So, Basantha.
Also, I think the people with power and try to control the other countries or things like that, and the stronger ones try to control the weaker one, and they expect them to do the way it is. And also there is no respect for humanity or the value or the human being and the sufferings they are causing for everybody just to keep their to show their power and control. So there is no respect for humanity or the value, just to keep powerful and how much more land we can have or control the other people. So when we look at this war, there are so many innocent people suffering from both sides, which I feel should be avoided, and there is no need for. Just now I read the news that a 1-day-old baby was found in where the missile attack was. So like this, it makes you really sad why these people are fighting for what. So I think that, until the leaders realize that Earth is but one country and mankind is one family, it is very difficult to come to a solution.
Yeah.
It's
Of course.
all the sides, everyone is suffering. Not one part is stronger than the other. They think they are strong, but actually innocent people are suffering in between.
Yeah, and that's what the real problem is. That's why it's a problem, because there's so much suffering.
And so much destruction. How many people don't have money to eat, and these people are just killing it and wasting the money with arms and weapons and things like that.
Yeah, if the leaders were to get together and just make that decision, let's have collective security, then we won't need all these arms. We'll just have enough arms that we can collectively stop someone from starting a war. Yeah, but of course, leaders 50, 60 years ago, they grew into the world, the environment, the community environment, and now the international environment. They're all making decisions which seem rational.
They didn't get the proper education, I think, when they were young.
Yeah, and I blame myself for that. I could do more to give children spiritual education to support families and communities. So, in fact, I can't change anyone in the world except myself. So I blame myself for the Middle East and probably a few other conflicts as well. But only because I can only control what I do and what I think. Robert.
The table may be hypothetical, but I've actually had it described not as a table, but when Israel was attacked, somebody I know lost family in that attack. And the first thing they expected from me was to take sides.
Mm.
And secondly, they're asking what the Baha'is are doing for the problem.
Mm.
Loves the Baha'is, but won't read anything about Baha'i faith. But as I said, what are the Baha'is doing? You know, you got to take sides. You know, which side are you taking?
Mm. Yeah, exactly.
And when I wouldn't take sides, they got very angry.
Yeah, very difficult situation. And there's a brilliant letter from, if you go to the Baha'i World website, their library, and look for the letters of the Universal House of Justice, they wrote to the Institute for the Studies of Global Prosperity and talking about what are Baha'is doing and how do we understand and talk about these conflicts. And it starts off by saying how our moral worth is judged by whether or not we take sides.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they perhaps feel that we're not doing anything. But this is where the discourse, I mean, I don't know how you coped in that situation, but if there was a way to turn it around to say that this all starts with spiritual education, it all starts with the principle of the oneness of humanity and setting up the structures which.
Well, that's another problem with the spirituality. You know, says all religions are, you know, a cause of the problems.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's right, and they are too, because they've forgotten where they started and the principles. All right. Well, look, that's particularly difficult when someone's actually being attacked and suffering. What can you say but help? Thanks, Rosine. Ahmed.
I view that the morality has gone down in the whole community of the world. Look at in Australia. Every day we get a news that somebody has killed another person, or somebody has shooted another person, or somebody is stabbing another person. You know, every day on the news when you look in there. But this wasn't there 10 years ago, 7 years ago, 5 years ago even. I mean, I don't know whether we're hearing more news now than before, but I think morality has gone down generally all over the world. And one of the causes of this is that people have left religion and do not believe in God anymore. And, those concepts that control their morality is disappearing. So on the international, in Baha'i faith, we know, or it's been forecast, that the human society would be a tattering civilization that will end up causing chaos. And then there's a belief that they hand over to a new world order, to a new way of looking at issues and having unity. So I think generally morality has gone down in the whole of everywhere. I don't know. I mean, I look at it locally and I see that morality has gone down.
It could be. Not sure how you'd measure it, but anecdotally, it seems that way. And it also shows that it's not enough just to have the structures of collective security or, a police force. If there's conflict at the individual level, then there'll never be enough police or collective security to be able to cope with it. So the oneness of humanity needs to be reflected at the structural level at the top and all the way down to the individuals and the way we see other people.
It seems that we're going one step forward, 2 steps backward, and continually. But I think generally we're going towards peace because many years now has passed from the Second World War and we haven't had a major war. I'm not saying that it could not happen, but we're going towards peace.
Yeah, Robert.
Sorry about the rail newspaper. Colin, what was that paper you're discussing from the House of Justice?
Oh, that was hang on. That was a letter dated 26th of May 2024 to the Institute for Studies in Global Prosperity.
Thank you.
That's all right. Because it was addressed to youth, particularly to youth who are studying as part of that institute. And so often people ask the questions, what are you doing about it? It says here, popular opinion, especially as expressed online, tends to place the highest value on the expression of outrage, outrage and being outspoken. Particular significance is attributed to speaking out about conflicts and related humanitarian crises by making the kind of public statement that apportions blame to one or other government or political entity and condemns them. As is well known, Baha'i institutions do not comment in this way on any ongoing conflict. We do comment in many ways, but not in that way, by apportioning blame. All right, suppose you've started talking about collective security. They're not interesting. They keep fighting around the table. You've had friendly neighbors and now they're about to go away enemies because of your dinner. But they have children, and they might be interested in the discussion about principles, how we raise our children, so that maybe the next generation will do it better. What could you say about child raising? Is there a way to raise children who are not prejudiced or can be better leaders? Ahmed.
I think the concept of virtues is penetrating into the society. I mean, Baha'is are for it all the way, but regardless of Baha'is, it's happening in many ways. You know, the human virtues and the concepts of friendliness and things like that in the education. A lot of youth now learn about these things, regardless of religious teachings that Baha'i is present in the schools. So I think it's going towards that, and I think I have to say that the only way is if education happens and human virtues are taught at the schools, so that every individual child learns about them and implements in his life or her life.
Yeah, and I would go further. I mean, whichever religion we belong to, we try to raise our children with virtues, with the qualities in which our religion is founded on. And if we're a Baha'i, we can talk about what's actually happening, the capacity building happening at the neighborhood level. And that a children's class could start the same day or next week, because we're developing those capacities, or junior youth, age 11 to 14 to 15, who society sees as frivolous and argumentative and just a difficult stage to get through. Baha'is have discovered that that's not what a junior youth is at all. They're actually altruistic. They want to do something positive for humanity. They want to work together in groups, identify something they can improve in the local community, and they do that. They plan their projects. It's just a new way of viewing that age group. And then when someone before the age of 15 has had that experience of planning service projects, they remember it forever. They, instead of deciding on some other hopeless path, they can say, yeah, I actually can make a difference. I can collaborate with people. It makes a different kind of a person.
Let me tell you a story that has happened to me. One of the surgeons that I work with, we had discussion about, faith and religion and things like that. And then he came up and told me that he sent one of his kids to a Baha'i, religious education in the school. And then I asked him, have you seen any difference between him and the other children? And he said, yes, he's a very peaceful person now. So it's interesting, these virtues help people, teaching these virtues help people.
Yeah, and it works especially well when the teacher is in continual communication with the parents, discussing what the parent wants for the child, sharing with the parents the child's progress. There's a lot. It's kind of a spiritual revolution which is happening, and it's happening right over the planet. I think when there's a spiritual revolution, planetary happening, that's something worth bringing up at the dinner table. It should be a point of interest. All right. Well, look.
Maybe you can ask from the people that haven't spoken. So, what's their views?
Yeah, all views welcome. Yeah. Val, good to see you. Hi. Do you have any tips on how we can talk about difficult subjects without making it worse?
Can you hear me now?
Oh yes, I hear you. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Colin. It's I decided to join. The subject is very interesting, and I'm just looking at my own family environment here with the kids, and the age you mentioned from 11 to 16 I've got, and yeah, I'm pleased to say that they're very placid and well balanced emotionally. And my 16-year-old is getting very mature for his age, which really pleases me. But yes, like I'm just thinking, you reminded me that we can teach the kids, but they observe us like monkey see, monkey do, and that's part of the biggest part of the education of the kids is showing what we try to teach them, showing in our own actions is a big thing. But yes, as far as the community and that, I in my studies about tithing and zakat and so forth, I found that Muslim religion has contributed a lot more than the Christian religion, for instance. And, their religion is growing, whereas the Christian religion is kind of stagnating, you could say. And I put it down to the fact that, when they do contribute, the money is used towards more education. And that's very relevant. At the moment, as far as the international side of it, I don't see any leader. There's no leaders. There's countries behaving themselves like egotistically selfish, in a selfish manner. I won't mention the countries, but it's obvious a lot of countries are doing the wrong thing. Not considering what side effects are suffering the other countries. And that's a huge problem in the world today. And how do you affect that? It's my answer is usually praying and of course as individuals try to do something with it, getting together and discussing, like you say, at dinner tables and what have you, and even if little pockets get on the same wavelength and do something. Someone mentioned there, the disease. Me being a recovering person, I've noticed that when you're going for a recovery, it is, the whole family is affected. And that's why in the 12-step programs, they have Alateen. Al-Anon is for the wives, Alateen for the kids, and so forth, which means that the whole family gets treated. And in the world today, there's not enough clarity, understanding about religion, about the morals, as it was mentioned earlier. And it's a mess in the world today. And again, I'll just finish on this. In my studies, what I've sort of seen, for me, it's clarity. I may be wrong, but the communist countries, which is Russia, China, their values, because they don't believe in a higher power, they don't believe in the principles, and the values are gone. And that's where the world is forever fighting like the yin and yang, or the dark powers, you might say. And this is where most conflicts arise from, because of the lack of understanding of moral values and religious or spiritual, I don't like that word, religious, spiritual principles. Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, thank you, Val. Yeah, I'm with you. Religion is can't be dismissed. It's like the blocks of world order that gives it structure and endurance. And you mentioned prayer. Prayer isn't the weakest thing we can do. It's probably the strongest thing we can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I just had one other comment about communist countries. For example, China. I mean, communism, different types of government come and go, but the concept of God, it's interesting, because I thought, okay, how do you talk about God in a place where they say they don't believe in God? What they do believe in is education and a moral structure. And I think it's fair enough to not believe in God, because God is unknowable. Well, what we can know is that, or at least this is something Baha'is believe, is that God manifests himself. He sends educators. So and that's as much as we can know about God, is that God reveals his qualities and and what we need to know through educators. And so that maybe that's where the focus can be. And instead of talking about God, we can talk about we can direct our attention to these divine educators.
I like to point out, like, my insight, the conception of what you just said is, yes, they're doing education in communist bloc countries, but to me, it appears, I hope people can understand this, it appears to me, because of that lack of understanding a religious concept or spiritual concept or principles, their education is synthetic compared to spiritual principles education.
Yeah, the whole world definitely needs spiritual education. In fact, I think that's something we can be thankful for. If our parents gave us a spiritual education, that's the best thing we could receive. Thank you, Val. Ahmed.
Yeah, I want to raise another aspect, and that's say that if one believes in God, and I mean, interfaith, we all believe in God. So we should not forget that there is action from God on humanity. And then many of these events in the history could be viewed as the hand of God moving the humanity towards a better civilization. So some conflicts, in my view, for example, what's happening in Iran and Israel, there's an involvement of the hand of God in it, and it's moving towards a solution that would be better than the present. So I think you have not to forget that God has got a plan for humanity as well. rather than just thinking of physical aspects of what's happening in the international world.
Yeah, that
I
I go along with that. Although we have to be careful, we don't want to say, "Well, yes, I know your family was killed, but God did it." That might come across that way.
No, I didn't mean that.
No, of course you didn't mean that. But what we can say is that we're learning through consequences. We're learning the consequences of not recognizing oneness at the international level.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's just about time for me to sign off and stretch my legs. Would anyone else like to say anything?
I think Perumal didn't talk. He came after a long time.
Hi, Perumal. How are you doing?
Okay, I'm muted. There are so many things to be said and talk about this conflict in the world today. Basically, all of us as we've embraced some or other, we embrace any one of the faith, but we have forgotten the principle teaching of the universal prophets of God. We have forgotten that all of us are created by God to carry out peacefully, to live in this world. But this conflict is actually basically is because of leaders. Leaders, they have their own concept of ruling over another person. So what has happened is that this war, why can't they just stop making amendments? This is the big issue. When you make amendments, some or other you have to make use of it. Where are they going to use? This is the big concept. Why? Is politically someone make the amendment and sell to someone else for what? To fight. Why can't they stop this? This is the big question in me. The second thing is media. They are not reflecting the real situation of the world today. They are not telling the truth. They are hiding the fact from the general public. This is where the problem is. So we must actually share the message with the general public that we must forego war. We should not talk about war. We should live together. If someone is going to create a war, let the person go to the battlefield. Let the leader go and fight. Then they know the pain of war. The leaders are all sitting somewhere else and letting others to fight. So we must educate the general public. If at all they want to create a war, let the leader go up to the battlefield. Then there won't be any war. Because they must taste the pain of this war, then they know. I think this is very serious. So my concern is that we must share the teachings with the general public, how to live peacefully. Nothing else. The universal teachers, universal prophets, every one of them teaches how to live peacefully. But we have drifted away from this teaching. This is my concern. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. And And the teaching we have now is how to live together as a planet. Before I go to you, Ahmed, Siva Lingam, did you want to say something? No? All right. All right. That's okay. Ahmed.
Something came to my mind about what Premier said. The cause of this rise in armaments is mistrust. And you have to go back and find out the root cause, which is mistrust between nations. Obviously, that needs education, as Premier said. So, the society in general, the human society, has to come together and remove that mistrust. Sometimes they collaborate. I mean, it's amazing for me that Russia and America collaborate in a space, and their spacemen both are in harmony in that spaceship in the sky, which goes every 90 seconds all over around the world. And then they have mistrust on Earth. So it's so amazing that the two can coexist. So obviously mistrust is the problem. So it's shocking that the spacemen are living together in that for more than 100 days or so, in harmony, and then down here they fight each other. So it's mistrust. Sort that mistrust.
Yeah, and there's Parimal was saying that there's arms, and when someone's got more arms than you have, and they're aiming them in your direction, then of course there's going to be mistrust.
Well, they're talking now in Australia even to raise the level of armament because they mistrust China. So, so that will continue if we don't solve the mistrust.
Exactly.
Yeah, the AUKUS treaty is going to be more problematic for us.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's have collective security so that we have no reason to mistrust, or if someone does have a bad intention, they won't get very far. All right. Well, I think we had a lovely session, and the theoretical dinner party ended harmoniously, and the neighbors still wave at each other across the street.
That's good. I'll see you. Bye.
Thank you all. Thanks, Vasantha. Thank you, everybody.